What's up, everybody? We made it to episode 5. It's International Women's Day. Unfortunately, my friend Bibi is under the weather. So we do have a special guest.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra. I'm filling in for Bibi tonight.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
I'm happy to be
So
here.
last minute. But we had the permission from Bibi to continue because, you know, Talking Tipsy must continue, especially on International Women's Day. So I appreciate you for being here so last minute and being a part of the show.
Now, I feel very honored that today I get to be here because it really, for us women, it's important for us to talk about how grand we are to society.
And supporting each other, right?
Right.
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to jump into it. We have a couple topics that we wanted to touch on today, and we wanted you guys to tune in, engage with us as usual, make your comments, tell us your stories. We're reading. The first thing that I wanted to talk about for International Women's Day was women in pop culture, how it's evolved. Thinking back from when I was a young girl, you know, back in the 90s, it wasn't very much a thing for women to be out in the industry, putting themselves out there. It was more so like, who did you know? And in order for you to like be somebody, it was like you had to be connected. Versus now, you know, being a grown adult, it's like, it doesn't matter who you know. It's what you've done, you know, putting in the work. Your videos, whether it be your music, whether it be giving back to the community, stuff like that has evolved a lot. Before, it was like, who were you sleeping with in order for you to get a record label or for you to put music outside, you know? I feel like that whole dynamic has changed immensely. I feel like women are more dominated in the whole music industry, you know, whether it's acting, music, modeling even, you know, it's more out there. It's more available. And that says a lot, you know, of how much we've grown in society. What do you feel about that?
And I agree. I think that women have done enough to make their mark in history in order where they don't have to continuously try to convince other people, especially men, that, you know, they're worth seeing, being talked about, because other women that have come before us, you know, you're talking about the 90s, I'm going to take it a bit back, you know, 80s, 70s, and before that, before those strong women came along, now we have women who don't have to work as hard, even though we're always working hard, but they don't have to work as hard because we had women who pioneered in a lot of areas that have made us strong. And like you said, we don't have to like continuously work so hard at it. But we just have to prove ourselves, just as men prove themselves. But we are here to be seen and heard just as much as men are.
Right, and I agree with that. It's more so women having a voice. Right. And not having to be like, oh, well, if it wasn't for so-and-so, I wouldn't be where I am today. You know, it's more so I brought myself, I did the work, I put myself in this position, and I'm going to earn that, you know? So that alone is a huge impact in today's society. I feel like a lot of women don't get enough recognition for that. And I'm not here to like downplay with men, you know, because they do have a part in a lot of those things. I I also wanted to ask, like, what does empowerment mean to you?
To me, empowerment means being able to be heard, as we talked about. But I think as women, we have to empower each other first before we expect men to empower us. We have to come with confidence. We have to come being able to be heard and talked about, because our achievements are worth a lot, as much as men's, and sometimes more than men's, because a lot of times women in history, their achievements have been hidden because of men, because the society was dominated by men. So it's like, oh, you invented that, or yeah, you did that, but since I'm the leader, let me take the credit for it. And I think as women, if we see these things happening, because nowadays we still have a lot of work to do, we have to be able to stick up for each other, right, and be like, hey, I have a friend, who's a female friend, and if you hear about a job opportunity, about somewhere where you can put your female friends in, I think that's important, that we first empower each other. And then we can expect more from our male counterparts.
Of course. And I'm in agreement with that. So a little bit back, like history for me, women empowerment became so strong for me when I decided to split from the father of my child, my little one. And I was like, I was living in Tennessee at the time. I didn't have a lot of friends. A lot of my friends were back in Miami. So it was hard for me to have like that support system, and what more better than having a group of women that can come together who can, relate to a lot of things and resonate with the things that you're going through, whether it doesn't matter what point of life you're in. So I did create a little group. It started off with like, not Instagram, I'm sorry. It was started off with WhatsApp. So I started off a WhatsApp group, and then on Instagram, I would post like, if there's any women that, they don't feel like they have a support system, or they don't want their circle to judge them, or feel like they only can go to that circle, come and join this group of, a group of women that can relate to you. If not, they have a different story, and no one is judging you,
Right.
So that was very important for me. So empowerment for me is like coming together, having a no judgment, like a judgment-free zone, and being able to talk about things like that you go through, and being vulnerable, and not having someone constantly like, for example, leave that guy already, you're so stupid, why are you still with him?
I 100% agree on that.
Like, it was more so a group that we were giving each other the resources that we needed, that they didn't feel comfortable going to their friend or going to a therapist or just talking about it in general.
Right. I agree. Well, I agree because I went through the same. When I separated from my husband, and I came from New York to Tampa, and I did live in Tampa before, but it'd been many years. And after you live in a whole different city, you build different circles. I was coming back with no circle, but I did go to college here, so I did have one friend. But I did take the time to like give myself at least a year to heal myself and do what I need to do for myself, my kid, my family. I know they were supporting me a lot. But when I was ready, I'm like, I'm gonna look for my friend, and that one friend I knew was going to lead me to have a support group like you did. And they were so fundamental for me to rebuild myself, but having those friends was very foundational for me to become who I am today. But I think that what you said is very important. You don't need your friends to be saying, hey, how did you stay with him again? You're going back, like that judgment, like women, we don't need that. We just need a friend who's gonna support you, uplift you, talk positivity into it while you crawl out, because we're not ready until we're ready.
Right.
So nobody can take that decision for us.
Exactly. And so that's kind of like what I named it Her Story, which was the group, because it's every woman's different story. And I kind of touched base, once a week we would meet, and we would get on Skype, and we would just, all talk about what we were going through that week. I did have like a topic where You know, if you were in the healing phase, like learning boundaries, because a lot of people, especially women, don't know boundaries.
Right.
You know, they feel like they just have to constantly prove or try to like be someone that they're not, or just generally just going through the motion, you know, and they didn't know what boundaries were. They didn't know what, you know, having a voice was. They were just like, I'm gonna have this tunnel vision and try to make it work as much as possible with whatever it was, whether it was relationships, whether it was a career, whether it's their family. You know, a lot of people go through family trauma and toxicity. So I felt that was very important. So empowerment to me is very important, you know, uplifting one another, like you said, having a support group, having the fundamentals and the resources of changing the dynamics of our lives. And a lot of those things come from breaking generational curses as well. And, you know, when you're raised in a certain environment, a lot of times you think that the way that those people are acting is okay.
Absolutely. And I think that especially for women nowadays, we are breaking out of this where we have seen patterns in our families that were not conducive toward female happiness. You know, a lot of times back in, people say, oh, well, back to when life was good. If we talk about 40s, 50s, women a lot of times had to stay at home. They weren't allowed to have jobs. They weren't allowed to have their own bank accounts, credit cards. None of that existed without a husband. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, for the women who fought hard so that we can now have these things, we're now empowered as women as a whole. And it's important for us to maintain this independence as women. And, you know, we're not going to talk politics here, but regardless of whatever political side you're on, I think as women, we need to take care of ourselves. And if we don't agree with something, we need to speak up, so that we can maintain to these freedoms that help empower us. Because without it, we wouldn't be here. Our great-great-great-grandmothers didn't have those chances. And maybe, we don't know, somewhere out there, they're looking at us and be like, you know, that's my family member.
Yeah.
And they might feel better. I don't know, you know, but it's important.
So you bring up back then, right? Where like women didn't have a voice, like you said, they didn't have a bank account, they didn't have their independence, whereas now a lot of women have their independence. And it's funny because a lot of people will be like, oh, because my abuela back then, you know, the relationships worked because they didn't have a voice.
Right, and they didn't have the economic freedom to walk away.
They were scared. They felt like, oh my God, but well, if I leave him, like I won't have anything. And where now we've moved forward, like, listen, I got my own car, my own apartment, my own job. Like I'm super independent. And again, I'm not trying to shit on men, but like it's come to a point where a lot of women can now turn around and be like, well, what can you do for me that I don't already do for myself?
Exactly. And it's important for women to be able to do everything without a man. Why? Because when we come to be with a man, if that's what you wish, or, you know, a partner, you can bring more, you know, to the table, right? As we say, what do you bring to the table? But together, you can become a powerhouse. Yep. But first, you have to be strong yourself. You don't want... You know, and I think about our ancestors. Because of me, you ate. Because of me, you have shelter. It feels good to be able to have our own things. Like I know you and I, like we've been through that, and you know, we can be in addition to a good partnership. Yep,
1,000%.
So
and not having that sense of dependency, which there's nothing wrong for women who are not able to have that sense of independence.
Right.
You know, I'm not trying to shame on anybody that is not able to do that, but this day and age is like, again, there's so many resources, there's so many things that we're able to do now. We're able to obtain the knowledge, we're able to obtain the resources, we're able to get a job to fundamentally, like, you know, be independent, whereas before we didn't have that, you know. And so I feel like if there's women out there that are scared to leave a relationship, or they're scared that they're not going to make it, you know, you have to change your mindset.
Right, right. You don't have to change your mindset, but you also said something that is important, right? And maybe you don't have your own car, your own house right now, right? But you can work toward it. Maybe you're at your sister's house, your brother's house, your parents' house. Maybe you're at a friend's house and you're working, saving up your money, going to school to try to get there. That is empowerment too. But because we need a support system, we need an important and healthy support system to get where we want to be. Whoever that is, as long as they're leading you toward positivity and a good life where you can feel good about yourself, that will later help you empower other women.
Yep.
Not just yourself.
And that goes with saying, like, that's where your story comes.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
you can share your story. You can say, hey, look, I was at a point in my life where I didn't have that, you know, and it just takes believing in yourself, having the courage, having the strength. And strength for women is a big thing. A lot of us are strong and we don't know that we're strong, or some of us are strong and we know we're strong, so we want to be stronger.
Right,
like,
right.
we're just like, guys, just gotta keep going, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's very empowering in general, you know, whether you don't have something or you do have it all. Just being there for one another.
Right, but we do have our down days, and that's where a support system needs to come in. Whether it be a friend, a coworker, a therapist, it's important for us to look for our support system. And I'm going to say this because for not too long ago, I completely forgot I had a support system. You know, I got busy in my day-to-day, in my routine, and it just felt like a circle, and I was, you know, kind of spiraling out of myself. And I had to go back and find myself and be like, hold on a second, I feel like my life has changed. What has changed? What am I not doing? And it's like, I do have a support system, but I got so busy with my
Life was lifing.
daily routine. Oh God, yeah, life was lifing. And it lifed me out. And I'm like, you know, I had a wake-up call, but it's important to have friends who, regardless if you haven't spoken to them in a year, 5 months, a day, that when you pick up that phone call, like that phone, and you call them, they're there.
Yeah.
No judgments.
Yeah.
They're here to support you.
I agree with that. And, you know, touching with that subject right now, a lot of us go through our emotions, right? Women, by nature, they're very emotional, and we go through motions. We're just constantly, you know, like you said, life was lifing. You were in your routine. You were stuck. You forgot you had a support system. And it's not because you were trying to be avoidant to your friends, you know, it's just life be lifing.
Life is life.
And there's people out there who take that very personal.
They do.
And I say that to say this. Like, I have friends who've been my friends for 20 plus years.
Right.
You know, and when I'm going through my emotion, they know, like, instantly. Like, all right, she's not feeling herself. She's in a funk. Let me give her space. I respect and I appreciate that to the 50th power, because there's people out there that take it personal and they're like, oh, well, she doesn't want to talk to me, or she got some shit going on, or she feels like she's better than me, or whatever have you. And it's like, why? Like, why does it have to be like that? Like, why can't you just understand that I'm a woman, you're a woman too, you know, we go through shit. And if I don't feel like talking, I'm not going to answer the phone.
Right, but I think here's where we need to understand there are different kinds of personalities, right? There's some people who want to be reached out to and perhaps won't reach out, but they want somebody to come out and say, hey, how you doing? But I think we all need to respect, you know, how our friends work. We need to get to know, hey, if you want me here, a simple text, I'm here for you.
Right.
Or phone call, maybe they didn't respond. At least they know you tried.
Exactly.
But it's also important to not take it personal when our friends aren't there. You know, maybe they are going through some things and they need their space, and they'll reach out back to us when they need us. You know, it's important for us to understand who we are as individuals.
So I wasn't reading the comments. There is a comment that says, women who are alphas aren't afraid to be submissive as long as the person they want to be with knows how to lead. I agree with that. I don't know if you're an alpha or you feel that you're an alpha. What do you?
I think all women are alpha. I think all women are alpha if we empower ourselves enough. The submissive part, I think, is right on the money. we need to learn who we can be submissive to, because we don't want to be taken advantage of
course.
right? But I
agree
think
with
we
that.
can all be alphas, within our own environments. It's different for everybody. You can't expect a rocket scientist to be an alpha in a kindergarten classroom, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think we all are. You might look at some women who are not and might think like, it's definitely not alpha. No. Maybe that she's not in her environment, or maybe she doesn't have the support system, right?
I agree.
We women, we have to learn to like not be jealous. We got to support and know that our time is coming. So
That's true too. A lot of women like to compare,
right.
and they're like, well, she has this, and that, and I don't have this. And it's like, okay, well, maybe it's not your time yet. You
Right.
know? I feel like a lot of the dynamic is where you are mentally, right? And it's changing your perspective. Because a lot of things could be resolved if your perspective was aligned with what's reality and what's not. Women tend to compare themselves, right? Let's say, for example, social media. Okay, because let's be real. A lot of
we
people
all have a social life, right?
they are comparing their lives to women who are posting their lives,
Right.
and they start to downplay what their reality is, and they're like, well, fulanita's always traveling and she got this car and she's always eating out at these fancy restaurants, and it's like, you don't know what the reality of her life is.
Right, you don't know, and I completely agree with this. I think we need to stay in our lane, empower our own lane, change certain things in your life. If what you see online, you want to achieve those things, I don't think we should see them as you being jealous. If you feel jealous, I think you need to work on yourself.
Yeah, that's inner work for sure.
But let's say you see someone who has a car, right? They got a new car. We talked about people not having cars and people having cars. Maybe you should think about it and be like, you know what? Maybe I need a better job, a career change, something so that you can get there and you don't feel jealousy. Like if you feel jealousy toward like another woman, you need to work on yourself.
Yeah,
You need to
1,000%.
check yourself.
1,000%.
Because it's like trying to compare, who we are as mothers. We cannot compare who we are as mothers or daughters. We don't all have the same parents. We don't all have the same kids. We can't handle everyone in the same manner. So it's important for us to make the differentials here of what is what. Just empower yourself. Don't be comparing yourself, especially social media. I'm glad you talked about that.
Social media, girl. A lot of people be comparing their lives, and it's like, you can't do that because people only post what they want you to see.
Right.
It's not what their reality is. Like, I used to be a person that I would post everything I was doing, and now since I've been in my job and I've been so busy because life be lifing, I don't post as much.
Right. And
I'll post when I travel or, something positive, because I'm not going to sit there and post what I do in my everyday life anymore,
Right. But hey, if you're posting what you do every day, it's cool too,
That's fine.
But it's where you're at in life. I think it's important to respect our processes of where we at. Hey, girl, if you're posting your meal, post your meal. If you want to post for breakfast, hey, you might encourage someone to have breakfast today who perhaps is not feeling good, but what you're saying is important. We have different life changes and our perspectives change and how we feel about different things. Jobs can definitely make you work differently in life.
Yeah.
So,
and it goes back to like just having that perspective, right? Like a positive perspective, not like you're saying, like jealousy or animosity or any malice, like, oh, well, why does she have that and I don't have that? And it's like, do you know what she went through to get that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe she was in the same spot that you were in right now, and all she did was wait, and all she did was have patience and dedication. Reflect that into your own life,
Right.
You don't feel like you're never gonna be somebody, you're never gonna have a good career, you're never, because that's no. Like, you have full capacity to become who you want to be, and it's all in with your control. That was something that I spoke a lot to my girls in her story. Like, you have control of your life. You can't have or allow others to control or dictate what your life is going to look like. You just have to, again, find the right resources, read books, believe in yourself, you know? And if you don't have a belief system or anything like that, find one.
Right.
Whatever that looks like.
Or create one for yourself, or create something that works for you. I think it's important, you know, now that you're talking about social media, that I would like to talk about relationships. A lot of times we see relationships on social media where they're constantly posting and oh my God, such happiness, such bliss. But once they close that door and once the camera goes down, they're everything but peaceful, everything but loving, you know? And maybe someone who doesn't post as much, they might have a very happy, peaceful relationship.
Yeah.
But also somebody who is single might be a way happier person, have a better, calmer, peaceful life than someone who's constantly posting on social media with their husband, partner, but behind closed doors, they're not happy. And I think it's important for us to stay in our own lane. You know, water your own grass.
I'm sorry, I had to
Yeah, it's important. And it comes to that. Don't compare yourself. Don't compare yourself. You know, maybe somebody got a brand new car, but you don't know what she had to go through to get that brand new car from that husband. Maybe you don't want that brand new car from that husband.
Maybe that was a guilty gift.
Exactly. You don't want that. You don't want that. Listen, man, I can get
I'm like, listen, tú estabas ahí andando en la calle and you got me this car. That's crazy.
Exactly.
Like, I don't want that.
Exactly.
I'd rather go get it myself.
Either. Yo, Netflix and chill by myself. Yeah. So be careful with the comparisons.
So
Yeah.
we are talking about women having self-confidence, financial independence, sisterhood and support, right? Those are all important things. And with all of that, we have to set boundaries. We have to build skills for ourselves.
Right.
You know, again, going back into what I was saying, like reading books, finding a therapist. Shit, for me, ChatGPT all day. Free. I go and I'll be like, I'm going through this and I'm very specific. And she just lays it out for me. And yes, she's a she because she is my support system, okay? When I don't want to bother my friends, and I know it's not a bother because they're my sisters.
Right.
At the end of the day, they're my sisters and they always tell me like, I'm here for you. And I'm shout out to you girls. I love you all. You guys know who you are, especially my mom. You know, it's not a bother, but you come to a point where like you yourself, you're tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck, if I'm tired of hearing it, these girls are tired of hearing it. And I know as my friend and my sister, you're like, girl, don't worry, I'm here for you. And you're like, this bitch is telling me the same shit all over again.
Yeah. And we
like,
sit through
fuck.
it. We'll happily sit through it. But I know that when you're coming to them, you're like, oh, here I go again.
Here I go. Like, here I fucking go with the same shit.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of my friends go through that too. And I'm just like, you know what? Like, I'm in a funk. Let me just go into my ChatGPT.
Right, and we can take ourselves on our own funk. You know, we could be our own support system too, empower ourselves.
It does. It takes a lot of strength to take yourself out that hole.
It does. But it's important that we also learn how to do that for ourselves.
Yeah.
Look for our own resources, ChatGPT. Maybe you can go online and look for a community that's going through the same thing that you are. These groups exist out there with people who are going through the same things.
They're not professionals, though.
They're not professionals.
Just make that clear.
But if you are at 2:00 in the morning and you don't want to wake up your mom, your sister, your friend, you know, you're going to be online. You know, make sure that, hey, that group exists and there are people that are going through the same thing and you could scroll through and maybe your answer's right there.
Yeah, and I think that's very helpful and beneficial because you then have that sense of reassurance. Like, okay, it's not just me. I'm not the only one going through this shit. Damn, this girl has it 10 times worse than I do. Or this girl has it easier than I do. But it's just knowing the sense of reassurance, like, okay, I'm not alone in this, whether you have the support or not. Like, you know that there's other women that are facing maybe 10 times worse than you are, or just a similar story, you know?
Right.
But again, for me, lately, ChatGPT.
Yeah,
Girl,
it's been a
ChatGPT,
great resources for anything.
Thank you.
Anything.
Thank you, AI.
Yeah.
Because shit, Lord knows, I be having, look, I'd send screenshots to my best friend. I'm like, girl, to not bother you, I've literally been having full-blown conversations with ChatGPT.
Yes.
ChatGPT. I'm like, well, so-and-so said this and I don't know how to respond. And then she'll like respond to me and I'm like, all right, tone it down a little bit. I don't want to respond that way.
Right. But that's important that you don't lose yourself, especially with artificial intelligence, that you learn how to maneuver this in order so that you don't lose yourself to artificial intelligence. You maintain who you are as a person and you can respond, as you said, this is not me. But it is a good idea. Maybe if I say it this way, or maybe if I like this part but not that part, you can tailor it to yourself.
Yeah.
So
because I perfect example. And I want to be raw because it's International Women's Day. We all have a different story. We all have different walks of life. We all have been through some shit, and some of us are privileged and have the luxury of not dealing with stuff like that. But they go through other stuff. You know. A lot of times in ChatGPT, I'd be like, I suffered a very toxic relationship. I've been single 5 years and I'm still learning to heal and like what approach to take and what not to take. I very much want to be in my soft girl era.
Right.
But it takes a lot, right? Especially when you've been through a lot of trauma.
Right.
So a lot of times I go to ChatGPT and I'm like, I want to say it in a soft tone, like being in a positive attitude. Just
reword this for me.
Like, can you just type this? Because I want to crash the fuck out right now. And I don't want to be that way, But that takes a lot of courage to acknowledge what you've been through and what you no longer want to do and what you're willing to change.
Right. But I think that acknowledging that what you just said will lead you to a soft girl era. Yeah. We're constantly hearing about this soft girl era thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this might mean different things for different people because depending on where you're at in life, your soft girl era will mean different things. If you're married with a great husband who's going to help you out around the house, the kids and all that, God bless. You might have a different soft girl era. It might be like, you know what, I'm going to go to the spa completely, with no issues and just relax. If you are a single mother, that soft girl era might be a little bit different. You first have to look for your support system. Are they available? Are they not? If they're not, how am I going to find pockets of peace where I can be soft for myself, right? We get used to this, I can do it all, and we can do it all. Yep. But sometimes you need to find your support system and be like, listen, I need to leave my house. So where you can say, this is what I want for myself. You know what? I want to go and do this. Mm-hmm. Can you come with me? Or, hey, can you help me out in whatever way you might need? Soft girl era. Let's talk about aging parents. A lot of people have parents who are ill.
Yeah, and they have to take care of them.
The support system needs a support system. So it's knowing that maybe you have a family member or a friend who could be like, hey, listen, can you come and stay with my dad for a couple of hours? But you have to reach out. You have to reach out to your support network and let them know that you are overwhelmed. Your parents, hey, my parent is doing great today. I just need you to come sit with them so that I can go to the spa and look for your soft girl moments.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
That's very important. And also in relationships.
Absolutely.
Relationships. In the dating scene, right? Because I can only talk about the dating scene. Mm-hmm. I haven't been in a relationship in a long time. Mm-hmm. So in the dating scene, having the soft girl moment is like you said, there's a lot of us that are single moms. We are super independent. We're always on top of everything, and it's just having somebody to come and just alleviate that stress and that load for you. Like, whatever that looks like. Hey, I don't want you to cook dinner. Here, I'm going to order you food, or let me take you out to eat. Or even if it's like, let me pay for your nails, or hey, look, I got you a gift card to go have a spa day. Like, that to me is like soft girl. Like, okay, you're gonna like handle that for me, because sometimes we don't take care of ourselves. We forget to take care of ourselves.
Yes, absolutely.
We're always like, okay, my job, my bills, my this, my kids, like, do they have everything? And I be at the store and I'm like, I originally went for myself, but then I see things that I want for my kids and I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel guilty buying myself something. Let me just put that back and I'll get this for my kids.
Right, right. I think a lot of us parents, good parents, we're guilty of that.
We are very
I know we
guilty.
are very guilty of, Jesus, I haven't bought a pair of jeans in like 5 years because your kids are going to 2 or 3 different sizes every, 6 months, a year. And we don't put ourselves first, but from time to time we do need to put ourselves first.
Most definitely.
And it's nice, when you're dating and the person you're dating with can't put you through those soft moments. For example, something as simple as going on a date and not having to drive.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, we're driving everywhere, and
then it's like the control comes over. You're like, no, it's okay, I could drive. Like, I said I would drive. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
But,
do you want me to put my seatbelt on? Yeah, I'll put my seatbelt on. Okay.
You open the door
Where
for
are we
me?
going?
Yeah, you open the door for me. Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
Can you put the window down?
That's a little hot in here.
Then we get annoying.
It's
Like, okay, never mind. It's cold. Can you turn the air off? Like, we start being a pain in the ass. But no, it is important for us to remember to have self-care.
Yes.
As women. Because, again, life be lifing. Whatever that looks like. I went to Mexico recently and the mom guilt very much came in, but at the same time, I had to remind myself, like, my bills are paid. My kids are home with their great-grandparents, which I never bother them. So, it was a privilege.
It is a privilege.
It's a privilege. So I took it as, I had to remind myself in that moment of me being in Mexico, tanning my butt cheeks without my kids. Like, you know what? It's a privilege. Like, I bust my ass every day. I make sure that my kids go to school. I make sure that they do good in school. They're fed, they have the clothes, they have a roof over their head. Everything is paid for. Like, it was a privilege. I had to remind myself, like, they're with their great-grandparents, they're able to say, hey, I spent a couple of days with my great-grandparents. Like, not a lot of people are able to do that.
No, they're not.
My mom gave us a nice roof over our head. We have clothes on our backs. Like all of that, I had to remind myself. And I think that a lot of times us as women, we're too hard on ourselves and we let that mom guilt overpower our mental.
We do. I am 100% with you on that because I've been extremely guilty of it. And I've been a single mom the whole time. I've never been in a 2-parent household. So there have been many times, and I just recently went through a circle of that, where I just completely lost myself in that, and the mom guilt is heavy, when you think about it. And it's like, oh, wait, but a happy parent will have happy kids. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't take care of yourself first, you cannot take properly care of your kids. Put your own oxygen mask on first. When you go on the airplane, that's what they tell you. Yeah. Put your oxygen mask on before you help somebody else. Put your oxygen mask on and then help your kids. Yep. Because if you're not happy, you can't expect your kids to go to school and have a great day if they've seen you crying, tired, if you've been cranky with them because you are super tired. Maybe what you need to do is order out. Yeah. Have pizza for tonight. I know I've been guilty of this myself because it's like, what did you eat? And the school lunch is not all that healthy. Yeah. And you want to give them a good meal, but you are exhausted and you just like, I want to order pizza. Order the pizza. Yeah. Order the pizza because you can go to bed earlier and tomorrow everyone's going to be happier. So
you don't got to wash dishes. You don't got to...
Right. And you'll be softer. You'll be feeding that soft girl era we've been talking about.
Yeah, my kids, that part. You cannot expect your kids to be happy if you're not happy. They do feel it. My kids, they'll know, like, if I had a rough day, if I'm cranky, and they'll check me too.
They will.
My daughter the other day, she's like, are you okay? Like, are you not in a good mood? And I'm like, no, I'm not. And either she'll help me, She'll be like, all right, mom, like, I'll ask her, hey, do you mind cooking or helping, Or if I don't want them to do anything, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna order something. Like, what do you guys want to eat? And it makes them happy. And when they're happy, I'm happy, and vice versa. When we're happy, they're happy. But if you're down and out and you're hard on yourself, they do notice.
They do notice, and
They do notice
I
it.
think it's also important that we communicate to our kids, like you just said. You know, if your kid asks you, and if they're old enough for you to have certain bluntness with them, it's okay for them to know that you're not okay, because not everyone in the world is going to be okay 100% of the time, and you cannot be super mom or super dad all the time. You know, my kid is getting older, and I can now explain to him, like, hey, I've been with you and doing things for you for so long, then I need you to go to grandma's house today because I need some time. I need to see my friends. I want to drive myself somewhere. Yeah, you know. But, you know, now he's older and he understands.
How old is your?
He's 12.
Oh, okay.
So he can now I know he can now look at it and be like, you know what, she's right. You know, because he has his own big routine and he knows I'm Ubering him everywhere.
The broke besties.
The broke besties.
The broke besties.
You know?
I have 3. I have a 15-year-old daughter, I have a 13-year-old son, and a 6-year-old son. And all 3 of them, they know me to a T.
Right.
And they know me in different aspects. My daughter, I'm able to be open with her, you know, and talk about whatever to a certain extent. You know, obviously I keep it at a very minimal. But for the most part, I'm very honest with her. Mm-hmm. You know, if I'm going through stuff at work, if I'm going through stuff with my dating life, because I want to have that sense of open door policy with my kids. Again, to a certain extent.
Right.
But I don't forget to cut that whole friendship and motherhood.
Yes, it's needed. It's needed.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then my boys, like, the little one especially, like, he just knows. Like, I don't know. I don't have to say or do anything. He'll just be like, Mommy, are you okay? I want a hug.
Right. But we also have to understand that our kids know this about us because we are their world to them.
Yes.
You know, we are the first contact to their own personal life. So what they see in you, they're going to pick up. Mm-hmm. So they study us a lot. They know when we're really happy or when you just fake it a smile.
Yeah.
So it's important to take care of yourself. You know, like I just said it before. That way they can learn to be happy. If your kids aren't happy, if you see that your kids are constantly not happy, I think it's time for you know, ourselves or
to reflect on it,
on yourself first.
Reflect on yourself.
And
for
sure. If your kids are not happy, you know, and you think you're okay, it's important to talk to them and ask them, you know, so that they learn to have an open communication with you.
Yeah.
Early on in life, you know, especially the smaller ones, they have their own little worlds and they're not so open to what's going on around them. But as they grow older, they start to learn more about the world and learn how it affects them. So start early, you know.
Yeah.
It's different when they're 6 or 16.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
But it starts when they're 6. You know?
It does. And for my little one, I started really early. I just feel like we had such a connection that he just instantly knew. Yeah. And he wouldn't say anything. He would just like, Mommy, I want a hug. And he'll just hug me, and then it made it better. The same thing for my 13-year-old son. I mean, his communication style is a little different. And he'll just be like, Mommy, can I come and talk to you? And he'll just come in and just make me laugh. And he wouldn't particularly like want to know what's wrong. He just wants to like have that moment. System. Have that moment with me and connect and just make me laugh. And I do feel better, you know? So for a lot of moms out there, like, if you don't have the support system and you don't want to reach out to other people and you have kids, it's okay to be honest and open with your kids. It's okay to build that rapport with your own kids and have communication with them. You don't have to necessarily be like super precise with the details or anything like that, but like just be open with them, you know, and have that means of communication so they go learning about real life stuff and they can understand you better. Because a lot of barriers are based off of the lack of communication with our kids. You know, a lot of parents are like, oh, I don't want my kid to worry about like what I'm worrying about. And it's like, why? Like, why not?
Why not?
You're kind of preparing them for the real world of what reality is.
Right. But I think it's important that we do it depending on their age.
In moderation, exactly.
Depending on their age. their maturity too, because you can have two 16-year-olds, one be extremely mature and the other one be very mature where they might understand, the other one might completely ignore you and not care. So depending on your kid, you might want to lean in, or you might want to change, your approach toward your kids.
Yeah.
All right. We've done great with this, but I also want to touch upon the history.
What?
The history.
She has a history thing. I feel like we got a little like emotional on her for a second.
It's an emotional day. But it's important to touch on the history of International Women's Day. How did this date come about to be? I'm going to tell you that I really did not know about International Women's Day. I did not know it even started in the United States. Why? Because I'm Colombian, right?
Oh, you're Colombian.
And in Colombia, and I knew like culture-wise, it's like, oh, it's Women's Day. You're gonna get flowers. You're gonna get dinners. You're really gonna get honored to being as female. No. It's almost like a second Valentine's Day,
or Mother's Day,
or Mother's Day. But I say it's more like a Valentine's Day, because they want to try to like
sweeten you up.
Yes, they do. So
well,
for
shit,
me,
I didn't get no fucking flowers. What the fuck? Where are the flowers, bro?
Right, but that's not a cultural thing here. I did not.
It's international.
Know. Right, but it's not.
I mean, fuck, because we're in the United States. Damn.
But that's why, to me, it was a moment where I realized, when I finally did realize, how International Women's Day came about to be. So, how did it start? It started in New York City in 1908, right? Sorry, we're having a technical problem here.
This is Prez, guys. This is the man of the hour.
He's IT. What is it? Where was I?
You were in New York City?
1908. In
1908?
1908.
Damn, I wasn't even thought of.
No.
My mom wasn't
parents
even
either.
Fuck, 1908,
There
okay.
weren't even a glimmer of thought in our grandparents' thoughts. So 1,500 women were out in the streets demanding shorter hours for their jobs, better pay, and voting rights.
So they had jobs?
They had
1908?
Jobs. Yes, they did. Some women did, right? Because
I didn't know that.
Yes, at the time, a lot of women were forced to work in, like, let's say, factories, and their working hours were ridiculous. They did not have also fair pay for the same jobs that men have, which still holds to today.
Yeah.
Women are still paid less for the same job that men are. But in 1908, women took the streets and they wanted to be heard.
So they did like a protest?
They did protest. And, that's why it's important that we know our history, because these women did not go out there for nothing. So we cannot let our rights be taken away.
You hear that, guys? I didn't even see. You learn something new every day. I have no idea.
But what catapulted International Women's Day even further here in the United States, in March 25 in 1911, in New York City again, there was a great fire in the, sorry,
no,
in the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. My
in New York
handwriting
City.
Here in New York. So there was a fire, and 146 garment workers died.
You said majority of them were women.
Women, immigrant women.
Crazy.
So what was so terrible about this is, as I was saying, the working conditions were bad. How bad were they? These women could not escape. The doors were locked. When the firemen came, tried to help them out, they had a very hard time, which is why there were 146 workers who died. And this terrible moment in history helped, women be heard. Things start to change.
Scary.
And this is, it kind of helped women be heard and things to change.
Yeah. Like equality and women's rights and
yes.
having the privilege to have a job.
And have better working conditions. So when I learned this fact, I'm like, wait a second, why do we not know this more?
Yeah.
Why do we not celebrate International Women's Day more? People talk about, third world countries, which are really developing countries, as being behind. Are they really behind all the time? No.
I feel like they're more advanced, if anything.
I think a lot of times they are. We just had a vote. We just voted for a new president, right? And there were many people, including women, who during this circle of elections that said, no, we're not ready to have a female president. Again, this is, I think, women empowerment. I believe that we are. I believe that we have a lot of great educated women who are capable of leading our country. Some people still differ, even women. I'm not here to say if you are or aren't, but I think that if you have gone through the experience the same way as men have, you might.
I think that, and I'm not biased, right? I just feel like there's mixed, there could be mixed answers with that.
Right, but
because
we all have our own opinion.
Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And I feel that a lot of times we're misconstrued because we are more emotional. Right. We make decisions because we do it emotionally. We make our choices based off of emotion, right? And that's like a political point of view.
Right.
A lot of people say that, women aren't equipped to be a leader or be in a position of power because we base our decisions and choices off of emotion. I kind of agree with that to a certain extent. I don't know. It really depends on the field. I feel that it's based off of, the experience as well. Because if you just put a woman into a position of power and they don't have the experience, like, what do you expect them to do?
Right. But the same goes for men. I think the same goes for men. But I think that's why it's important that women continue to empower themselves and put themselves in positions that are traditionally for male and fight for it. If you believe that you deserve to have that promotion or you want to run for office, if you want to be, the president of the TPA, Parent Teacher Association, something small as that where you can get experience, in leadership roles, do that.
Yeah.
You never know where it might take you. I do know that a lot of people will say, oh, women are so emotional. I'm not going to say that we're not, right? But I think that if we can recognize when we are emotional and we are not, and we can learn to change those aspects of ourselves, we can definitely be better as women.
Of course.
Because, for example, you are in the car and somebody cuts you off. Are you going to start screaming and yelling and be all emotional because somebody cut you off? Or are you going to lay back and be like, well, that wasn't smart, and keep it moving? You're not really being too emotional.
I am.
See, you're leading with emotions. I'll sit right there and I'll be like, yo, you can't drive. But,
I'm like, yo, what the fuck? You really fucking cut me off? And my daughter's like, they can't hear you, right? I'm like, well, I'm just letting it out. I didn't put my freaking window down and like curse them out because I don't have a gun and they might have a gun and they might do something crazy. But, that's a good example.
Exactly, but it is. That's how we learn self-control.
You fucking cut me off. Fuck you. Why are you in a rush? Why are you rushing? Just relax. But definitely, and that's something that BB did want to touch on. I love you, BB. I'm just so sad that you decided to. Anyways, I'm not going to go in there. She wanted to touch base on women being in a position of power. For example, my mom was a warden of a juvenile jail. She was a warden of a correctional facility. And back then, there was not a lot of women that had the ability to take over a position that strong.
Right.
Because it was frowned upon. Like, oh, you're a woman. Like, what do you know? And what are you going to do? And if things go wrong in jail. I'm speaking from experience. Like, my mom was a fucking badass. And she still is to this day. Like, if she wanted to run a jail, like, she will fucking run a jail. Like, she's very much a woman that would roll up her sleeves and get the fucking job done. Like, she don't ask questions. Like, she knows her shit. And a lot of women get I don't want to say scared, but they get intimidated.
Right. They might hold themselves back.
And it's like, why? Like, believe in yourself. Believe that you can do what the other woman can do or what a man can do.
Yes,
absolutely. To a certain extent,
Right.
we don't want to say that a woman can do everything that a man does because we can't. Physically, strength-wise, we can't.
Right.
But they also can't do what we do as women.
Exactly.
Like birth children. But they can't tolerate pain. But those things have changed over time as well. You know, taking a position of power in a man's dominated field was like very much frowned upon, and they felt like women couldn't do it. Versus now, there's a lot of women that are taking over that role.
Right, they are, and you know, it's important for women to continue to put themselves in those positions that are traditionally male in order to empower themselves, and they empower all women at the same time and future generations. For me right now, at work during Christmas time, I won a blender, a nice shiny new blender. But what was the
kind
question?
of blender was
A whole new ninja.
Oh, ninja blender. Okay, I love it.
But the answer was simple. There were a lot of trivia questions that I did not know, but this one I did. One, because I found that important. Mexico had elected their first female president. What is her name? Do you know her name?
No, you're hitting me with
See?
history.
This is why I won the blender. I won the blender. This is why.
Was it Frida? No, I'm just kidding.
Listen, I love Frida. I love Frida.
It wasn't Frida, guys.
I love Frida a lot. Like, I absolutely, when I first learned about it when I was like 14, I was all into her. But I will tell you, women do not love like Frida. That is one thing that I will, you know, I've told myself throughout the years, I do not want to love like Frida. But anyways.
That's for another day.
That's for another day. So her name is Claudia Sheinbaum, right? I did not know. And I was like, oh, when I first learned who she was, I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive, right? Because so many things are being talked about in Mexico right now. And, you know, as these months have continued, I'm like, I want to learn more about her. I'm impressed, you know, because
so tell me a little bit about her.
She is a woman who has an extremely extraordinary academic career in her professions, and then she went on to teach at the universities, and she's also a mother and a grandmother, and then lo and behold, she came to now become the first female president of Mexico.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Mexico is a very big country with a lot of issues. They have a lot of positive things, but just like all countries in the world, you know, she empowered herself to the point where she became the first female president. And I was like, oh, wow. And, you know, and I've kind of been following her. Whether you agree with someone's politics or not, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm not Mexican. I'm not following her for that. I'm following her because I see strength in her. And I want to have positive role models in my life.
Yes.
You know, I know I have them around me. You know, you talked about in your mother. I see it in my mother, too. I see it in my friends. But other people who do other things.
Yeah.
You know. So I'm pretty impressed. I'm like, wow, she's pretty powerful. And she, you know, she says her things with certainty, and she looks things up before she speaks. I think she's recently spoke to her people instead of, you know, ignoring her people. I think she's shown, you know,
a lot of integrity
and leadership.
And I respect that. One thing, there's like a little, anyways.
The one,
yeah, the fuck. It's BB, because she's not
BB,
here.
in spirit.
She's like, yeah, say what I want to say. No, I'm just kidding. One thing that I did learn recently from someone very close and that I cared about was when you go for something, right? When, like, let's say if it's applying for a job, right, that you feel as a woman you're not ready for or whatever, it's not about you applying for that position and gaining more money. It's more so the experience and saying, I had the courage to step up to the plate and apply for it because I felt that I was equipped for it or I can handle the job. And that stuck with me because a lot of times we shy away from trying new things because we feel we're not equipped or we're not ready.
Right, we can't box ourselves in.
You know, and it's not, and the way, the perspective of, and the point of view, how it was presented to me and explained to me, I was like, damn, you know what, you're right. Like, it's not about the job or if I was ready or if I meant to have the job or not. It was the fact that I stepped out of my comfort zone and I did something that I normally wouldn't do.
Right.
Whether I got the job or not.
Or not. Exactly.
You know, and I feel like a lot of women should just focus on doing that.
Oh, yes, I agree 100%. You know, I have changed careers a couple times in my lifetime. And throughout the time, I've met some coworkers who have been extremely dissatisfied with their jobs, but they stay. They stay because they feel they don't have the knowledge, the skills, the experience. But sometimes, you know, like you just said, you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go on that interview that you know they're going to turn you down, but you will have gained the experience as to what you might need to improve on.
Yeah.
In order for whenever if you do want that role, you can go on a second interview and get that job because maybe you needed a skill that you didn't have.
Yeah.
So it is important.
And just overall, the whole experience, stepping out of your comfort zone.
Right.
A lot of women, I feel, you women, don't settle, don't belittle yourself, don't box yourself in a little area where you're like, well, I can't do this because I don't have the skills or the knowledge or even the education. Like, who's to say that you don't? Like, you have to put yourself out there, and there's always resources. Shout out to ChatGPT.
Right.
You
Exactly.
know? Like,
the library, Google.
Google, you have all the resources where, you know, back then we didn't have that before.
Yeah,
And that's why a lot of women felt that they were not capable of getting out of their situations because they didn't have the resources. They didn't have the accessibility to internet. And now we have everything at our fingertips. So,
Right. Which you just reminded me of something, right? Like we talked about this earlier, but it triggered the thought that, you know, back in the day, women had it better. Oh, the relationships lasted longer.
yeah.
Yeah, they did because women didn't have the resources to leave their husbands. They're getting, you know, domestic abuse in various forms. They didn't have a way out, but now we do. We do. We have excellent community resources that help women in these situations.
1,000%.
And they can help them find jobs. So, you know, it's not easy to escape a situation like that. But it's better to escape one than stay in one for the sake of having a long relationship.
Yeah, 1,000%. I agree with that. Use your resources, ladies. You know, empower one another, uplift one another, support one another, and just be you. Be your authentic self at all times. Don't ever feel like you have to make yourself something that you're not. It's okay, whatever path you're in life. We all go through something. It may not be right now, it may not be tomorrow, but eventually your situation will change. Your situation will get better. And constantly believe in yourself, change your point of view, you know. I struggle with my own mental stuff. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I'm perfect.
Yeah.
Same thing is for you.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's perfect.
No.
We all go through things. And with that, I just want to close out for our
I
International
have a
Women's
question
Day.
for you though.
You do?
Before we go.
Okay,
What makes you, on a personal level, feel proud about being a female today?
Ooh, a lot of things. For one, I would say the main thing for me is the ability to be a mom.
Okay.
There's a lot of women out there that don't have the ability to be a mom, you know, whether they don't want to be, they're scared to be, physically they can't be. So I would have to say I'm super grateful and I'm blessed to have the ability to be a mom and give life.
I agree 100% with you on that one. I think that's, you know, it's almost synonymous with being a woman, you know. I'm saying almost because we women are almost always viewed like the childbearers. But it's okay to not want to have children. It really is.
It's fine.
Do you? Do you?
It's fine.
You know, you touched about the women who can't have kids. Hugs, you know, and baby dust to you.
Yes,
It's a
shout
rough
out to you
road,
guys.
very rough road. I also think that, you know, being a mother is perhaps our greatest role. So I'm glad you talked about that.
Yeah,
one.
that's the nearest and dearest to my heart because it made me who I am today.
Right. I hold that title. I think that's my best title to date. I know I never will hold a greater title than mother. But I am also extremely proud of my other titles. And why am I proud? Because I know there are women out there who have not had the same opportunities that I have, so I don't take them for granted. I am a professional woman. I hold 2 degrees, so that to me is also very important because I know there are women out there who have not had the chance, and I know there are women out there who want to and are thinking about it, and they're looking for ways to make it happen. I'm also extremely proud of, the daughter that I am.
I love that.
I know that there are a lot of older children, out there, and I'm saying children because, as we as parents, we don't stop being parents once our kids are grown. You might be 60 and your parents might be 80, but are you a good parent to your 80-year-old? Like, do you call them? Are you checking on them?
Yeah.
I know I have a very close relationship with my family, my parents, and I think that's important that we also step into, the child role as adults.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of that one too.
Yeah, that's good because my mom now has the ability to take care of her parents, and my grandparents are in their 80s.
Right.
And she's proud to be able to help them and, whichever way possible. And me being a single mother of 3, my mom only had me, so just having one is a lot, but like having multiple kids is even more.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
so I'm like, shit, am I gonna be able to help my mom when she's that age? I pray that I'm able to, and my kids are able to be there for her as well and for me. But those are good points to talk about as well, because those don't get a lot of recognition either.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you guys. Thank you for engaging. I know I wasn't able to read everybody's comments, but that concludes our podcast for today, episode 5. Shout out to BB. She is a powerful, dominating woman because she fucking dominates shit.
Yeah, she does.
She was like, no, the show must continue.
Yeah,
she made sure that we still came on. And we just appreciate BB and everything that she does. She is a powerhouse. She is a woman that is super creative, super loving, a great mom, a great wife, a great friend. And that comes really hard to come across nowadays.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
So big shout out to BB. We love you. We love you all, ladies. Whoever tuned in, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you all, and keep being great.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, yay! For sure. Thank you for coming on. It was so last minute. She was like, oh. But everything is good. So shout out to every woman in the world. Keep being great. Keep being you. And we love you guys.